The movie opens in darkness, a quiet, empty street, late at night. A young black man walks alone. Silence everywhere. Suddenly, a car pulls up and stops. A stranger steps out, knocks him unconscious, and takes him away. The scene shifts. Chris Washington, a talented photographer. His girlfriend, Rose Armitage, a white woman. They love each other deeply. Now, I'll be mentioning black skin and white skin throughout this story, because this entire film revolves around exactly that difference. Rose wants Chris to meet her family. Chris grows a little anxious. He asks her, "Does your family know I'm black? Will they be okay with that?" In America, the divide between black and white has existed for hundreds of years. Many white families still carry that prejudice, silently or openly. Chris knows this. Rose reassures him. "Don't worry, my family isn't like that." The two set off toward Rose's family home, somewhere outside New York. Rose is driving. At some point, distracted, she hits a deer on the road. The deer dies. A police officer arrives at the scene. Eventually, they reach Rose's house. The Armitage family, wealthy, privileged, a world of their own. Rose's father, Dean, a neurosurgeon, her mother, Missy, a psychiatrist. Both of them greet Chris warmly. As Dean shows him around the house, Chris notices something. The two servants working there are both black, Walter and Georgina. Seeing them, Chris relaxes slightly. Dean notices and says, "Don't worry, we don't see color here. Walter and Georgina used to look after my parents. When they passed, I couldn't bring myself to let them go. They stayed." At dinner, Chris mentions that his mother died in an accident when he was young. He doesn't say how. Dean notices Chris's hand trembling slightly and understands. A smoker, anxious without a cigarette. Dean says, "My wife Missy could help you with that. Hypnosis therapy. I did it myself. Now the very thought of cigarettes makes me sick." A little later, Rose's brother Jeremy arrives. His first question to Chris, "Do you know how to fight? Wrestling? Anything like that?" Chris is caught off guard by the question. The reason will become clear later. Deep into the night, everyone is asleep. Chris steps outside for a cigarette, and that's when he sees it. In the distance, Walter is sprinting toward him at an unnatural speed, not slowing down, not stopping. Chris jumps aside, and Walter tears straight past him, as if Chris wasn't even there. Then, Chris spots Georgina, standing in front of a glass window, staring at her own reflection, smiling, slowly, strangely, like someone seeing their own face for the first time in years. Chris stands there, unsettled, trying to make sense of what he just saw. And then, from inside the darkened sitting room, Missy speaks. "You know, cigarettes are terrible for you. Come, sit with me." What is she doing awake at this hour, alone in the dark? Chris sits. Missy holds a teacup in one hand and a spoon in the other. She begins, slowly, stirring the spoon inside the cup. The sound, soft and rhythmic, starts working on Chris in a way he cannot explain. Missy asks, "Tell me about your mother. Where were you when she died?" Chris says he doesn't want to talk about it, but the sound of that spoon keeps going. And slowly, he slips somewhere else. He begins speaking on his own. "I was watching TV. I could hear rain outside. My mother was coming home that night." When Chris was a child, his mother was killed in an accident. But Chris never called for help in time. He never saved her. And that guilt, he has carried it with him ever since. Missy's voice drops low. "Now, sink into the darkness. Chris feels his body go completely numb. He whispers, "Why can't I move?" And then he falls into a black, empty, silent void. The next morning, Chris jolts awake and realizes he no longer wants a cigarette. Guests begin arriving at the house, older, mostly white. Rose introduces Chris to each of them. No one says anything openly cruel, but something in the way they look at him, speak to him, feels wrong in a way Chris can't quite name. While taking photographs, Chris spots another young black man at the party. His name? Logan. Chris approaches him, and something immediately feels off. Logan is young, but his mannerisms, his way of speaking, feel like an older man wearing a younger body. And the woman he's married to is a white woman nearly 30 years his senior. Chris also meets a blind elderly man, Jim Hudson, an art dealer. Jim says, "I love your photography. I was an artist once myself, but I lost my eyes." The party continues. At some point, Chris steps back to his room, and he notices everyone has gone silent, all at once, as if the entire crowd had been performing and the performance just stopped. He goes to charge his phone and finds the charger unplugged. He mentions it to Rose, who gets irritated and walks away. Chris calls his closest friend, Rod, a TSA officer. He tells Rod everything: the hypnosis, Walter running in the dark, Georgina at the window, the general strangeness of it all. Rod says, "Man, get out of there. Something is very wrong with that place." Chris is worried, but he doesn't quite act on it. That's when Georgina appears in his doorway and says, "I'm so sorry about your charger. I must have accidentally unplugged it while I was cleaning." But the way she says it is not normal, not even close. Midway through the sentence, tears begin running down her face, and yet she keeps smiling, forcing it, crying and smiling at the same time. She says, "This family treats us so well. They look after us like we're their own." A servant, crying without reason, praising her employers. Chris stares at her, and the discomfort in his chest grows heavier. Later, a guest at the party asks Chris, "What's it like being black? Are there any advantages?" The question is offensive. Chris stays quiet. But Logan answers, "Being black has given me so much. I'm proud of who I am. I never want to go back to the city." Chris tries to take Logan's photo and accidentally triggers the camera flash. The moment the flash fires, Logan changes completely. He becomes frantic, frenzied, grabbing Chris's arm and screaming, "Get out! Get out of here! As fast as you can!" Just from a flash of light, the man became someone else entirely. Why? Dean steps in, says Logan simply got angry, overreacted. A few minutes with Missy and Logan returns to his former calm self, walking away as if nothing happened. Chris files it away, but doesn't let it go. He takes Rose to walk by the water. He tells her, "Your mother hypnotized me without my consent. Something is wrong with this place, with the people in it. I can't explain any of it, but I want to leave." Rose tells him, "I'll come with you. Don't worry." But inside the house, while they walked, the guests had gathered quietly, and in front of them, on a table, was a photograph. A photograph of Chris. They were running an auction, not for objects, not for property, for a person. And the winner was Jim Hudson, the blind old man. Rod calls back. He's looked into the photo Chris sent him. "That's not Logan. That's Andre Hayworth. He went missing from Brooklyn months ago. Nobody could find him. Chris makes his decision. He packs his things. He's leaving. Now. And that's when he finds the photographs, hidden at the back of Rose's closet. Photos of Rose with other black partners. Many of them. Not just men, women too. And in those photographs, Walter and Georgina. They were never servants. They were Rose's previous partners, brought here and kept. Chris understands now. He is in a trap, and Rose built it. He goes to her. "Give me the car keys. We're leaving." Rose, cold, calm, says, "I'm not giving you the keys, and you're not going anywhere." The mask comes off. Missy appears, spoon against cup, that sound filling the room again. Chris's body locks up before he can stop it. He sinks back into that black, empty place, seeing everything, unable to move a single muscle. Alive, but paralyzed, like a prisoner inside his own body. When he regains awareness, he's in a chair, hands tied, a television in front of him, switching on by itself. On screen, an old man introduces himself. Roman Armitage, Rose's grandfather. He says, "We are a family of wealthy white people. You, the African Americans, you have more physical strength, more vitality. So we take your minds and place them into our bodies so that we can have what you have. Your mind will not disappear entirely. It will be trapped somewhere inside. You will see everything. You will hear everything. But you will have no control over your own body." Brain transplant. Hypnotize a black person. Lock their consciousness in a void. Remove their brain and replace it with an older white person's. And that black person spends the rest of their life watching from inside, screaming where no one can hear. This is why Walter's behavior was so strange. This is why Georgina cried for no reason. This is why Logan, young in body, moved and spoke like a man in his 60s. Their bodies had been taken, their minds locked away. Hudson then appears on the screen. He says, "I don't want your strength. I don't want your body's power. I only want your eyes. The way you see the world. That's what I want." The sound of the spoon against the cup fills the room again. Chris, in pure panic, begins tearing the sofa cushion apart with his fingernails. He pulls out the cotton stuffing from inside and presses it into both his ears, so the sound can't reach him anymore. Jeremy comes to untie him, assuming Chris is still unconscious. He isn't. Chris launches himself at Jeremy, knocks him out, grabs a mounted deer antler trophy from the wall, and attacks Dean. Dean dies. Missy steps forward, cup in hand, one last attempt. Chris smashes the cup. Missy falls. He runs for the door. Jeremy recovers, attacks again. Chris finishes it. He takes the car and drives. On the way out, he accidentally hits Georgina. He can't leave her on the road. He puts her in the car. Rose, still outside, hears the car. She picks up a rifle. Inside the car, Georgina suddenly wakes. But this isn't Georgina. The woman inside that body is Rose's grandmother. And she screams. "You've destroyed everything we built!" Chris loses control of the car. It crashes. Georgina dies in the impact. Rose fires. Walter, whose body carries the mind of Roman, Rose's grandfather, grabs Chris from behind. Chris, in the last desperate second, holds up his phone and fires the flash directly into Walter's eyes. And Walter stops. Because that's the answer. When bright light hits the eyes of someone who has been transplanted, the placed consciousness is briefly interrupted. The original person surfaces for a few seconds before being pushed back down. That's why Logan screamed at Chris after the flash. He was trying to warn him. His real self clawing through for just a moment. Walter, in a quiet voice, tells Rose, "Give me the gun. I'll handle him." Rose hands it over. Walter turns and shoots Rose. Then turns the gun on himself. Because he knew, in a few seconds, Roman would be back. He would lose himself again, and he chose not to let that happen. He used the only window he had. Rose, still alive, bleeding on the ground, still tries to reach Chris, still trying to accuse him, to make him the villain to whoever comes next. A car pulls up. Rod steps out. He takes Chris and drives away. Rose dies on the road, alone. Two questions this movie leaves behind deserve answers. Why did Walter shoot Rose instead of Chris? The flash of light briefly shut down Roman's transplanted consciousness inside Walter's body. Walter's original mind surfaced. He knew exactly what had been done to him, and he knew that in a few seconds, Roman would take back control. So he used those seconds to end it, both Rose and himself, to stop the cycle from continuing. What was that dark void Chris kept falling into? In psychology, when hypnosis is used to completely empty a person's mind, stripping away their sense of self and control, that state is called the sunken place. A mental condition where consciousness exists but has no power. You see, you hear, but you cannot move, cannot speak, cannot reach anyone. You are present and completely alone. Get Out is not a horror movie about a haunted house or a monster in the dark. It is a horror movie about something that has existed for centuries. White America using black bodies, first as slaves, now as vessels. The form has changed,